thanks everyone for joining. We'll just give people kind of a minute or so to get in. So whilst they're doing that, I'll just start with a little bit of housekeeping. You'll notice that when you've logged on to the webinar that your camera and mic are off. That's just so you can hear us speak and hopefully impart some words of wisdom. But we'd love for you to contribute, ask any questions you want. We'll absolutely get to those at the end. And what we just thought would be a nice thing just to get started, as this is a webinar on social media, is just to pop a nice little emoji in the chat as to how you're feeling at the moment. So I don't know if there is an actual hungry emoji, but I will kick off. I'm going to go for like a general positive vibe emoji. So I've put that to everyone. So I will insist that Melissa and Will, you also kind of get involved with that with a little emoji as to how you're feeling, how you're getting on today, just what everyone else is involved. The more creative, the better. I've done this before and someone put a penguin in the chat and it kind of led to a really interesting anecdote. But yeah, let's just see how everyone is getting on and everyone is feeling today before we get cracking on the webinar. Oh, look at that. Someone's not feeling so good. There's a little bit of a nose blowing going on there. I hope you feel better, Chong. So thank you for sharing that one. How about you, Melissa? Well, what are you going for and how are you feeling emoji-wise today?
I'm having a good little look, actually.
Yeah, I'm considering this.
I almost feel there's too much choice nowadays, isn't there?
I agree, Graeme.
They keep on expanding and expanding. So whilst you're just deciding on that, I'm just going to get the slide deck up so we're ready to rock and roll. Look at that, a nice little smiley face. Hopefully that should come up with the right one. And Melissa, I'm on the right slide deck. Can you see the big picture as opposed to the small picture?
You're on the right slide, Graeme. You're there.
Excelente. Well, as time is ticking on and we like to keep these nice and short and sweet, I think let's get cracking and move onwards. So it's always nice to politely introduce people, I feel. So Melissa, would you like to just kick off with a very quick introduction and then we'll move over to Will?
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here. My name is Melissa. I am completing a 12-month internship with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and I'm working for HR and talent acquisition. I've been here since October and it has already been the best kind of role I think I've ever been in. So yeah.
Excellent.
That's a bit of me.
Pleased to hear it. And how about yourself, Will? You don't work for Enterprise, do you? I mean, I know you wish you did, but you don't.
I don't know. I work for the University of Gloucestershire. I've been in the role for 3.5 years now, working with organisations who are keen to engage with student and graduate talent. And prior to that, I was involved in kind of the recruitment agency world. So always been in recruitment and kind of employability, that buzzword that we talk about.
Absolutely. Well, thank you ever so much. And Will is joining us, our university expert. So thank you ever so much, Will, for giving up your time today as well. And as per you can see from the slide, my name is Graeme and I work as a marketing specialist at Enterprise. So today we're going to be talking all things social media and hopefully give you some really nice, actionable insight as to how you can kind of utilize social media to help you land a job. But we're kind of very aware with this. It's a bit of a tricky one because social media covers so much stuff. And that's the only way I can really describe it at the moment. It's not a case of one social media platform now versus, none. There are so many different things out there. So I guess before we kind of get into some really kind of practical advice and tips to kind of really help you stand out and hopefully get that graduate job that you're looking for, what we wanted to do was start with some of the mistakes that people often make. So starting from a place where common mistakes are made, as we know. And I really wanted to come to pick your brains on this bit first and foremost, Will. So your experience, you've worked in recruitment, you now see loads of students and work with loads of different employers. So it'd be great to get a perspective maybe on your kind of top 3 or your main things that you see from the mistakes that students often make when it comes to social media and trying to get a job as well.
Sure. So I think the first thing is you mentioned scope. I think social media is huge and it can be a really powerful tool, but it can also similarly trip you up at times. So in terms of things that we've seen within the university, I've worked with certain organizations, for example, that employ companies to do a deep dive on people through social media. So my tip number 1, I guess, if we're looking at top 3, would be really review the content of your social media, review the privacy settings. and kind of analyze, if this were an employer looking at this, how would they feel about it? So that could be political content, it could be language use, or as I say, review your privacy settings so that they can't do that check. Tip number 2, I would say follow companies that you're interested in on social media. I've known it to be asked at interview, why are you not following us on social media? So a company that I've worked with in the past would ask that of a candidate, and once you're in the interview room, that's actually quite a difficult question to answer. If you're there in front of them saying that you really love their company, trying to explain why you don't follow them on social media can be quite tough. And then thirdly, I think, when we talk about social media, we talk about that kind of digital footprint, digital brand, that personal brand you're creating for yourself. I'd really be interested to know what people think their connections would say about them. So if they, for example, if you're on LinkedIn, if people look through your connections list, what does that say about you? Are you friends with all the people that you knew from school, or have you gone out and made some really relevant connections, some real industry links that speak to the kind of industry that you're looking at going into? So they'd be my 3 top tips.
Amazing. Great insight. Well, so just a couple of points to pick up on that one. You mentioned about following employers, that if you're going for a job or applying with them, why is that? So for everyone on the call, why should you be following the company that you're interviewing with or looking to apply to? What's the theory behind that?
So I think there's a few reasons. I think the first is that it indicates a genuine interest in that company. They can also, bear in mind see when you followed them. So if you followed them the day before your interview, again, does that indicate a genuine interest? So that'd be point number 1. I think companies are really interested in people that are interested in them. But also, of course, when you perhaps get to an interview stage or you're applying for a role, having that company insight is really useful. And often you'll have access to more information about that company if you follow their social channels.
I think it's great advice, and also it just gives you something else to talk about at the interview, doesn't it? If you're following the company, they're often going to share out content, and it's a great talking point at the end of an interview to say, oh, I've just read this interesting article. Let's say if it's about enterprise, you see expansion of electric vehicles and how that provision works, and have some very specific questions. And I guess the only other thing I'd bring on from Will's point is that as recruiters, we often hear our careers websites kind of regurgitated back to us on a frequent basis. When we ask, what is it you know about the company? Well, it's great to add some really kind of up-to-date news and insight that you can get by following them, because often if people are working for a company, they're going to be advocates, aren't they? And they're going to be able to kind of share what's going on the ground as well. So it's a great way to stay up to speed as well. And I guess the other question I just have, Will, on that bit is, you talked about digital footprint. Do you have any kind of top kind of tips for kind of cleaning up if one may need to do? I'm not talking about myself, obviously, and Melissa's either, but if one may want to clean up their digital footprint, any tips there as to a way to do that to make sure it's as employer friendly?
So again, I think that comes back to sector, employer. There isn't one size fits all. You may be looking to an organisation who'd be really keen to see some content, whereas others wouldn't. So I think that is tricky. I would try and be as objective as possible, and kind of take yourself away from the situation, because we have a bias when it's our own content. But if you maybe ask someone objective to look at it and say, would this be appropriate? That would be my tip. But I'd take it on a case-by-case basis, depending on the sort of sector and organisation you were looking at. I think. Yeah. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Great advice on that one. And a lot of this, I think, stems back to LinkedIn, which is something we're going to really talk about today, because this is what we see as a key kind of platform that you should be using to help you land your graduate job. So I'm going to come over to you now, Melissa. What are your thoughts on kind of social media and LinkedIn specifically as well? What are your thoughts there on how it can really help you land that graduate job?
Thanks, Graeme. So I think it is quite clear to see that social media platforms are becoming a very popular resource for recruiters to find their ideal candidates. And a survey that I actually looked upon, and it was a joint survey between We Are Social and Hootsuite, and it found that nearly 78% of the UK population, which filtered down, that's 53 million people, are active on social media. So this is raised by 5% since last year. So we are just seeing an increase very rapidly of the use of social media. So with the average age user aged from 16 to about 64, clocking up about 2 hours of social media time per day, advertising jobs through this medium is becoming a very fast and quick, accessible way of reaching graduates. And that's why it's such a good platform for us to use who are graduates or perhaps seeking a job or career change to result to use social media. The survey also found that just under a third of the UK population, so about 29% of those questioned, had used social media for work purposes. So there's a clear connection that social media and work relations are progressing very fast as well. LinkedIn is 100% a social media platform. LinkedIn can be viewed very differently according to different people and how they may use this. But it is 100% a social media platform. It's a professional platform, and LinkedIn's job section is filled with great opportunities and handy features. So, for example, jobs on there, they have an easy application function. So that means all you need to do is click and add your CV and you've applied for a job already.
I think that's a great point. You can literally apply for a job with a couple of clicks, because it literally just pulls the information you've got on your profile if you've got a CV in there, and you can literally apply direct for a job in a couple of clicks. So it kind of just really shows, doesn't it, how important LinkedIn really is. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
That's it. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree, Graeme. It's amazing how technology and social media is progressing, and you don't have to sit and fill out row by row of each application. You can kind of just have a click of the finger and there it is, you've applied for a job. So LinkedIn will be your number one source of information when preparing for an interview as well. So find out who is interviewing you. Look them up on LinkedIn, look at their career path, find any specific interests that they may have, any current projects they're perhaps working on, and use it to your advantage and tailor your answers to engage them within your interview process. Recruiters are constantly using LinkedIn to research potential employees, so creating a strong presence is crucial, as this increases the visibility when they are searching for candidates. So how to create an excellent profile attracted to recruiters. I'm just going to quickly list a couple of things which I think is really important when reviewing your LinkedIn profile. So that would be, for number one, it would be to be personal. Be you. We are all individual for a reason. We are all our own people. No matter if we've got things in common with people, we are still our own person. And I think that's such an extraordinary asset to have as a person, to stand out from the rest. You can tailor your social media page to you, and you can explain who you are as a person through the use of social media. That also comes onto a photo. You want a photo of you. You want a nice, clear photo on your LinkedIn page. Not one of you perhaps out having a drink with your friends, and it's nice to see that you're sociable, but you want to show your professional side to this. So I think your photo and to be personal are big, massive steps when creating your profile. Another one would be keywords. Use keywords for your desired role in your profile to help you, so you're found by recruiters. Recruiters may search for specific meanings or specific words, and for you to have those and explain how they apply to you can help you out from the crowd. Headline. So describe yourself and what you're looking for. You need to be true to yourself, and you need to be true to what you're looking for as a job. You don't want to be approached by someone who's got a role which is nothing to do with what you're looking to go into. So ensure that your headline is really clear to recruiters so that they know to reach out to you and get those connections going. Another one would be a summary. So ensure this is up to date and complete. You want to be on top of everything you're doing. So if you've done an extra training session, or if you've volunteered somewhere, you want that to be on your profile, because you want to keep recruiters up to date with what you're doing and how that can affect you or help you to get a job, essentially. Reverse engineer your profile. So for example, find out what skills people are working on in the industry that you want to work in, and match these skills to your profile so you're more appealing to employers. You can have on LinkedIn, you can make your own, you can do skills tests, skills quiz, You can also get endorsements from people. So if you feel like you've done a really good job in a previous role, you could perhaps have your manager endorse that for you. This shows recruiters that you're not just, that you're true to what you're saying, that actually you do have these skills. Post content. So post frequently if you feel that you can contribute, as this increases your visibility on LinkedIn searches. You want to keep up to date with current trends. You also want to repost things. So if a business that you perhaps want to work for has posted something and you feel like you can relate, or you feel like you could have your say on that, then repost it, share it, say how you feel about it. And that will just show recruiters that you're engaging with the business, that you're interested in what they're doing, that you have your opinion on that. And finally, connect responsibly. It's so important that you don't just connect with anyone who asks you to. People can see your connections, and you want to show that you're connecting with people who are benefiting to you as a person, benefiting to you find a job that you want to be in. You want to recruit with people professionally. You want to build those relationships. You don't want to just use it as a dating website or as to find new friends. It's good to find new friends and use this platform, but use it to your professionalism and stand up from the rest.
Wow, so much insight there, Melissa. And I think a point as well with that is that LinkedIn is gamified now, so it actually shows you how strong your profile is. So you should be aiming for an all-star profile. And I'm sure I'm going to give absolute props to career services across the UK, but of course Will's team especially. I'm sure the careers team are more than happy, aren't they, Will, to help you if you've got any specific LinkedIn questions about your profile.
Yeah, absolutely. It's becoming an increasingly popular topic for sessions and questions that we get asked as career service, because I think people really recognise the importance of it now.
Yeah, I completely agree. And there's so much great insight from Melissa there that we will summarise at the end, because again, there's so much can be done, and we could probably talk about this for an hour and a half, but we're not, because lunch is absolutely calling. But just on that LinkedIn note, one question we often get asked is, I want to connect with an employer, but I don't know the kind of tone or what type of message to send. So what we've just done is we've put together a very quick LinkedIn message, which we're just going to talk you through, just to give you a little bit of insight as to something that could work. And myself as a headhunter, as a recruiter, and somebody who works in marketing, if I receive this message, it speaks to me. So as you can see, it just, you want to start off by putting the person's first name, which I think is important, stating where you are, what you're studying, and what university you're attending, and what's the role and position. So Melissa mentioned, be really specific. What's the type of role and position you're looking to try and achieve? Because lots of companies have many different roles that they're recruiting for, and you may not have connected to the correct person. So then we'll be able to pass you on. And then again, we speak about this a lot, enterprise. If you've attended an event with us, like this one, or a skills session, or met us on campus, or met us at a careers fair, reference that, because a hot take we have in recruitment at the moment is we really are keen to understand where you've heard about us. You'll see that on so many graduate application forms. How did you hear about enterprise? How did you hear about XYZ company? You see it time and time again. And again, if you're connecting with someone, ask for their advice. I think that's a great thing to do, but also make it personable. So those of you who may go on my LinkedIn profile, you can see I'm an avid fan of the American Office TV show. So a little props there, or something you've picked up from my profile, is absolutely fine. So that's just a very short nugget of what a pretty solid LinkedIn message would look like. And I would expect if you sent something like this, you would get a response to it as well. And I think the other thing just to mention, following on from Melissa's point, is about keywords, because this is where we see a lot of students fall down. So again, I'm going to absolutely pick Melissa and Will's brains on this one. So if we are recruiting students at Enterprise for our graduate operations management role, where we have over 470 locations across the UK, we have to go quite broad, absolutely. But what are some things that we look for? So our role at Enterprise is very hands-on. It's very people-focused. So job titles such as, if you've been a team lead somewhere, an assistant manager, barista experience, customer service, all really links in as a job title section. And us as recruiters, we can search directly for those parameters. And furthermore on that, from a keyword perspective, we'll often search for keywords that match our values or match our competencies. And here are just a few that really pop up. Having candidates who've got strength in customer service, if you've got sales experience, have you got anything on your profile that speaks to leadership, are really quick ways to get yourself found and noticed by recruiters. Will, from your perspective as a recruiter as well, is there anything that you tend to do if you were looking for candidates, or things you recommend for students to have on their profile just to really make it stand out and give them the best chance of getting headhunted by a recruiter?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm noting these down myself because it's actually really useful to know, what you look for at Enterprise. So I think this speaks to the earlier point that was made about researching current employees in business. It may be worth looking at their profiles and seeing, they went through a journey themselves to go and work for that business. So what sort of skills did they speak to? Certainly something that I'd look for is to make sure it's relevant to the job role. So perhaps a tip could be do some research on your ideal role. Look at the job description, look at the person's specification, look at the skills they're looking for, and see if you can match that and tailor your keywords on your profile accordingly.
Amazing. Awesome. And I know time is ticking on, but we just quickly wanted to talk about how useful hashtags can be when looking for your job search. So Melissa, I'm going to come back to you on this one, but we'd love a nice little summary on why people should be using hashtags and how they can really use them to really help them in their job search, and again, help them get stood out and get noticed by employers as well, or really help them in that interview process. So anything you want to add here would be grand.
Lovely, thank you. So something that all of these platforms have in common is the use of the hashtags. I personally think that it's one of the most important aspects when using the platforms, as I do feel like it allows you to find your right audience and target just through the power of the hashtag. So following the correct professional will allow you to see what a company has to offer. So for example, if you go and follow a careers website page, hopefully they will most likely have a showcase of available jobs or positions all linked within their account somewhere. Around 60% of users on these platforms are Gen Z or millennials. So this makes it a great place for businesses to promote brands when recruiting for a wide target. And there's a various of roles that suit vary of individuals. So, for example, if you are looking to look for a role and you're based in London, you could put hashtag London, hashtag London jobs, hashtag London recruitment, and this will increase the chance that you will have a nice geographical, I'm going to skip out that word. You have that nice niche to see where there's roles available to you. So the use of the hashtag really does help you narrow it down as to where you want to find a role or a recruiter or a business that you perhaps want to work for. Just an additional point, not essentially as much as the hashtags, but in your social media, if you're kind of using the words that you're passionate, results driven, team player who puts 110% in everything you do, it might just be a time for a bit of an update. You want to make it personal to you, be yourself. That makes you different and that makes you stand out to everyone else in the world, is to just be you. So on that note, Graeme, I'm just going to end it here by saying use these hashtags, be yourself, be independent, and hopefully the perfect role will come to you.
You can absolutely, and you're so right, Melissa, you can go down so many rabbit holes with hashtags, and lots of companies use hashtags internally as well to track certain things, or if they've got competitions they're running or what they're doing in the community. And finding out a particular company's hashtag is a great way to really get a good insight as to what the culture would be. And again, it's something you can get involved with, you can comment on, and again, it just elevates your profile. So just before we wrap up the session, just kind of a very quick summary, just to kind of tell you this, because we've covered loads here. So just to whiz through these, one of the quickest ways to get noticed on social media and make yourself stand out is you need to, if you're looking for an internship or a job, you need to have yourself as open to work, because as a headhunter, we can search directly for that on LinkedIn. They're the people we're going to go to first, because those are what we call our active candidates in the market. And again, as Melissa mentioned, make sure you have the type of role that you're looking for. You know, we've all talked today about the use of keywords and how you can do that. So it's definitely worth having a a revamp of your profile. I'm not saying that Will's going to happily do everyone's profile LinkedIn for them, but your career services will be able to help you as well. But, you know, Will made that great point at the beginning about following relevant companies. And if you're not sure about whether you want to apply for a company, following them is a great way as an insight just to see what their culture's like in a little bit more detail. And again, following key people, you know, the recruitment team, marketing team are always going to be posting content. And, you know, Melissa made the point again about starting conversations on an interesting topic to find out more. How can you join in that conversation? It's going to be a little bit intimidating at first, but honestly, as soon as you get involved, it becomes a lot easier. And again, the other point that we just wanted to make is that your profile has to be up to date. I lose track of the amount of times I message candidates and they say, oh, Graeme, I'm really sorry, I haven't updated my LinkedIn profile. And randomly, I had one the other day who said, Graeme, I'm actually working for Enterprise, but I haven't updated my profile. So that then says to me, I was like, great, it shows that my searches are where they need to be, but they just said that they hadn't done it. So again, think about how you can make your social media accounts and platforms up to date, because it is super, super credible and important along the way as well. So what I'm just going to do is just end the slideshow there for now, just so I can jump off that and go back into the kind of main conversation as well. But if there's any kind of questions that people have, please do pop those in the chat. If not, we will finish up and have a little bit more convo today, just to finish that. There's a nice post from my colleague saying that keyword piece is really important. Allow yourself to be found. Make sure the keywords and skills associated with the role are interested and mirror in your LinkedIn profile. So what I'm going to do just before we finish up today is I'm going to come to Melissa and Will, both for their one golden nugget today. What is the number one thing that people should be doing to make progress in this area? So Will, if you were going to take one piece of advice forward today, what would you be doing to make your profile stand out more to help you land that intern or graduate job?
Yeah, so I've written a word down. It might sound a little bit cliche actually, but I've written down bravery. I think a lot of this takes bravery, the kind of willingness to contribute to the conversation and stand out, as we said as well. I think having the bravery to go out and put your personal brand out there, that would be what I'd take away as a nugget from today.
I think that's a great phrase. How about yourself, Melissa?
Yeah, I think I massively agree with you with that one, Will. I do think bravery is a big thing when it comes to social media. For me, it's just going to be sticking to this point, and it's because I'm passionate about it, and that is seriously individualism. You know, you are your own person. You have some aspects which perhaps someone else doesn't, and be true to you, because that is what will make you stand out and ensure that you proceed in your role and be the best you can in that role as well.
I think that's amazing advice. Keep the individualism and be brave, I think, are two absolute wonderful pieces of advice to go forward with. So we just come to the end of time. Look at that, 12:29. We're absolutely on the money today. I would say as well, just to make sure that if you're a student, you have to be on LinkedIn, because the amount of times we speak to students and they tell us that, oh, they don't have a profile yet, they're going to set one up. You can set up a LinkedIn profile. Maximum time to get it looking where it needs to be is about an hour, but you can do it quicker than that. You have to be on LinkedIn, because if you're not on LinkedIn, you cannot be found and you'll miss out on events, job opportunities, and being headhunted. So again, it can be a bit intimidating, but as Will said, you've got to be brave. There's loads of great resources there to help you out and get you ahead on that basis. Now, if you've enjoyed today, all our previous sessions are on our YouTube channel as well. So you can look up all the previous content we have. We're back next week as well, focusing specifically on job interviews. So which type of job interview to expect and how you can prepare for it. We've got some other lovely colleagues taking the lead on that one. But for the time being, I just want to say a massive thank you to Will and Melissa for joining me today. Some great insight and nuggets there. And this recording will be up on YouTube in the next 7 days as well, if you want a recap of any of the great advice that's been given. So I hope everyone has a great and enjoyable lunch, and thank you ever so much for tuning in. We'll see you all soon.